When you go to a wrestling event, do you ever wish you could be part of the show just without having to put in all the time and money and hours and miles on the road to actually be in the ring? Well, it's simple. Just hijack the show by being a shitty fan. I want to talk about the trend of fans cheering the bad guys and booing the good guys. This is something that gets really popular around WrestleMania weekend every year. I don't mean for this editorial to be some kind of fun police where I tell you how to enjoy yourselves at a wrestling show, but I just want you to understand where I'm coming from. When did this phenomenon begin? Well, it's kind of been around forever, I guess. My dad used to tell me stories about how back in the 70s, he and his friends would go to the wrestling shows and they would, do exactly that. They would just boo the good guys and cheer the bad guys. Not to get themselves over in a smarky kind of way, because really smartdom didn't really exist back then. It was more just to be funny. I think the practice that we know of today started when the New World Order came around, and they were the first really cool heels and fans really wanted to get behind. And since then there's been this culture in which the heels, especially on the independent level, try to cater to fans by doing cool or funny stuff, which in turn gets themselves cheered, which is great if the office is trying to book him into that direction to become a good guy. But if that's not the case, then it's kind of makes things difficult for everyone involved. Then there are those heels who honestly try to do heelish things, but for whatever reason, whether it be some kind of accumulation of goodwill or reputation among the fans, not very good booking if they're going against some kind of milquetoast face that the crowd can't really get behind, or in a lot of cases when the fans just want to get themselves over, they get cheered. I'll admit, it's an easy thing to do, especially in today's WWE. I mean, John Cena has been the poster boy of this trend for the last 6 or 7 years or so, but that has a lot to do with the fact that he hasn't really evolved in that amount of time, and he's never really taken a considerable break to let fans breathe and move on without him. It's like what Austin and Rock did during their respective primes. It's the old saying, we won't miss you if you don't go away. A lot of the top faces in the company are as dull as dishwater, whereas there are lots of heels in the company who are more fleshed out and are just generally more interesting than the good guys. So what happens is they put a lot more time and effort into building these bad guy characters, and it does almost nothing. They do nothing for the good guys, and that ultimately hurts everyone in the long run. Some fans will jump up and say, well, we're just showing appreciation for the wrestlers, man. We're just showing appreciation for the talent. That excuse only comes up when they're doing what I am complaining them of doing, where they cheer the bad guys and boo the good guys. Both sides, by and large, are equally talented. Here's my stance on cheering for heels if you're a fan. Unless the circumstances make it really difficult, please don't do it. One of the earliest things that I was taught when I was trained to be a wrestler, and something I remind myself every day, is that if you're the heel and the fans are cheering you, then you have failed at your job. It's the wrestler's job to elicit a certain reaction out of people, and in the heel's case, it's his job to draw boos. Now, he is responsible for a lot of that, but he can only do so much. In the era we live in today, where everyone knows it's a work, so everyone knows that this guy probably isn't really a bad guy and really not trying to hurt that guy, he can only do so much. So a lot of the other responsibility actually falls on the fans. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking right now, you're probably asking, well, why is it up to the fans to help the wrestlers? Well, you know what I was saying earlier about being part of the show? You have been a part of the show all along. It is your job to help the wrestlers by eliciting the proper reaction. It's interactive theater. You have been a part of the show all along. It's just as big a part as the wrestlers, but it does not mean you should take over what they are doing in the ring by doing your own thing as far as cheering and booing goes. The mind naturally wants to create a good versus evil dynamic in everything in life. It's just how it goes. It's who do I root for? Who's the villain? It's what happens when you read the news. It's what happens on your favorite TV shows or movies. It happens in your workplace. It happens for the sports teams you follow. Even the ones you're ambivalent towards. You'll watch a game and you don't really care about either team, but you'll lean toward one team to win. Everyone wants to create that good versus evil dynamic, and it's the same thing in wrestling. And when you decide to flip the script like that, it goes against what your mind naturally wants to do. When I work a show as a manager, I go out there and I do heelish things, and the guys I come out to the ring with do heelish things. And whenever I see people cheering us, I get disappointed, not in myself, but in the people out there in the audience who are doing it. Because I think at this point it's just obvious they're just trying to stand out. They're not really doing it to appreciate the talent. They're just being assholes. Full disclosure, I used to be one of those smarky fans at ringside. A friend of mine and I, years ago, like 12 years ago, we went to our very first independent show, and we didn't really know who was who, we didn't really know who the characters were. All we could tell was, all we knew what we were going to do was when we knew who was a good guy and who was a bad guy, we were going to cheer the hell out of the heels and just boo the faces so vociferously, and we thought it was hysterical. We were the only two out of like 150, 200 people at the show who actually went and did it, and we thought we were just hilarious. But you know, looking back now, 12 years after the fact, I can guarantee you that the guys who actually wrestled and busted their asses out there probably didn't appreciate what we were doing, because, you know, it was obviously all these kids just trying to be cool. I would sit in the front row at shows and yell, "Oh, that's Cheap Heat!" You know, I was being so know-it-all, and it's so embarrassing to look back at it now, just knowing what I know now, and thinking, oh God, what was I thinking doing this stuff? If you want to show appreciation for a wrestler, then respond accordingly. If you want to appreciate a face, then cheer him. If you want to appreciate a heel, even if you like the guy, you should boo him, because that's letting him know he's doing his job. You're not going to make a wrestler feel better. You're not going to help him by cheering him. You're actually hurting him because he's trying to get a character across, and when you're intentionally giving him the opposite response of what he wants, you either aren't getting it or you're a jerk. No one's going to see you doing that at some indie show or some WWE show and think, "Oh wow, he's so hip and counterculture, what a cool guy." And don't give me the whole "I paid for my ticket so I'll cheer who I want to" argument. No, if you're going to do that, then I dare you to go buy a ticket to Yankee Stadium and cheer for the Red Sox. I dare you to watch an episode of Game of Thrones and tell your friends, "Boy, I sure hope Joffrey keeps being a dick to people." Now let me be clear here, I'm not just saying you should go out and blindly, you know, cheer and boo the faces and the heels because that's what booking logic dictates. That's not what I'm saying. There are times when it's okay to cheer a heel, you know, if they had just pulled off some crazy big spot near the end of the match, or if they had just lost some, you know, evenly fought, could go any way contest, and it was a really good match, or if they just turned face. That's a good appropriate time to cheer a heel. All I'm saying is that in the wild and crazy world of professional wrestling, there is still a level of etiquette that is involved, especially when it comes to the fans. Wrestling can still be a lot of fun without having to flip the script. As a certain wrestler once said, you simply need to know your role. Now, if you're at some indie show and everything is crap, then yeah, go nuts. So what do you think? Do you think it's okay for fans to cheer the bad guys, or do you think the heel has failed at his job if fans are cheering for him? Do you think I'm full of crap? Tell me in the comments section. I look forward to hearing your responses. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.